Hello, horror lovers. This is a true paranormal story that actually happened. My only request is that after listening to my story, please take a second to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Enjoy the listening. My name is Ethan. The year is 2007, and I am only 8 years old. Now I am 27, and the story I'm about to tell you is as real as it is bone-chilling. We had a happy family. We lived in an old farmhouse inherited from my grandfather at the foot of the endless Appalachian Mountains in West Virginia. I was a fearless child. We used to play outside with the other kids from the town until 9 in the evening. Our favorite game was hide and seek. I loved playing on summer evenings after it got dark. I would hide deep in the forest and wait for them to find me. I was a daredevil, or so I thought. I returned home safely every night until that one night. We had gathered again at 9. Near our house, there was a large canyon gap where we threw our trash. Because that area was so desolate, there were no municipal services. That evening, I had a strange feeling inside me, a weirdness I had never felt before. When the game started, I headed deep into the forest again. While I was leaning against the root of a large oak tree and waiting, I heard a whisper, "Look behind you." I didn't understand what it was. Since I didn't know what fear was, I turned around. There was no one there. Thinking my friends were playing a prank, I called out, "I see you, come on out." But I didn't see anyone because no one was there. Then I suddenly realized my friends' voices had gone silent. Thinking they had given up on the game, I decided to head out, but I couldn't. I was walking, but it was as if the path never ended. Then I ran like crazy, but it was in vain. I realized I was lost. My breath grew short. I sat on the ground and started to cry. My only fear was never seeing my family again. Just then that whispering voice came again. "Look behind you." This time it was as if it was right in my ear. I was terrified, but I turned around anyway and I saw him. He was a massive, incredibly tall man, pitch black. He had almost no face. In that moment I understood what fear really felt like. I was speechless. I couldn't control my breathing. My heart was about to jump out of my chest. I tried to open my mouth, but it felt as if it was locked and heavy. My eyes widened with terror. I stood up and turned around to run, but he was right there in front of me again. I didn't know what to do. He didn't react. He just stood there watching me. I was about to faint. We stared at each other for about 15 seconds. Then he started walking toward me. I was moving backward, unable to take my eyes off him. Suddenly, he started running toward me. I turned my back and ran like a madman. I was certain I would be trapped there. Then all of a sudden, I found myself in the middle of our street. I ran toward the house. When I reached the front door, I felt an indescribable heaviness on my lip. I went inside. My mother and father were sleeping. I shook them awake. My mother let out a scream when she saw me. I tried to explain what happened, but no sound came out because my lip was split right down the middle. My father took me to the town hospital immediately. They stitched my lip, but we couldn't explain to the doctors what had happened. I fell asleep under the effect of the anesthesia. When I woke up in the morning, my mother took me to a spiritual counselor. It was to loosen my tongue. The man read some talismanic things to me and gave me protective symbols and blessed water. He told my family, "This child has been very frightened. He has crossed paths with dark entities. Keep a close eye on him." They were in shock. We went home. My mother washed me with that water and made me drink it. They tried to ask what happened, but my father finally expressed and said that the subject should be closed and never opened again. 3 months later, I started to be able to speak, but that happy child was gone. In his place, I had become someone fearful, someone who was even afraid to go outside. My family did their best to make me forget this incident. My father bought me a guitar, which I loved. I occupied myself with it at home, trying to distract myself because during those 3 months, I was constantly thinking about that black man, waking up in a panic after seeing him in my dreams. After a while, we started to have financial difficulties because my mother and father couldn't leave me alone to go to work since I was so afraid. We were down to eating dry bread. One day, my father told me I had to be brave and that they needed to work. I understood the situation and told him, "Okay, Dad, I'm not that afraid anymore." However, I was still in terror and still very much afraid. The next day when I woke up, no one was home. While I was occupied with my guitar, the phone rang. I answered. There was a woman's voice on the other end. She said she was calling from Germany. "Is this Sarah?" she asked. "I'm her son," I said. The voice on the phone said, "My son, I am your Aunt Mary." I didn't know my aunt at all. She had moved to Europe years ago. She told me on the phone that she had arrived in the state, was waiting at the bus station, and wanted to see my mother. "Come on over, Auntie," I said, but I mentioned that my mother was at work. "Okay, I'm coming. It'll be a surprise for your mother and you won't be alone," she said. The bus station was close to where we were, but an hour passed and no one came. I thought my aunt's business must have taken longer. I picked up my guitar again, and just as I was about to start playing, the door knocked. When I opened the door, the person standing there was my aunt. I opened the door saying, "Welcome." It was the first time I was seeing my aunt. She said to me, "Hello, Ethan, I'm your Aunt Mary." She hugged me, kissed me. She looked a lot like the woman my mother showed in photos. We went inside. My aunt talked about the days she spent in Europe. She and my mother had parted on bad terms. My mother hadn't liked her husband, didn't want her to get married, and my aunt had run away. While I was listening to her, the door knocked again. An old man was standing at the door. "My child, I am a shepherd living on the opposite slope. I'm thirsty. I have medicine and I need to take it," he said. He asked for a glass of water. I got water from inside and gave it to him. "Thank you, my child," he said and left. I went back to my aunt. "Son, let me stop by a market. I came empty-handed. It would be shameful," she said. Because I was afraid to go outside, I said, "I can't come, Auntie." "I'll be right back," my Aunt Mary said as she left the house. When I was left alone in the house, the phone rang. It was my mother calling. "Son, we're coming home. Do you want anything?" she asked. I said, "No, Mom, but my aunt from Germany came to the house an hour ago." My mother paused for a moment. "Son, what aunt? What are you talking about?" she asked. "Mom, you know, your sister Mary that you always show and talk about in the photos." My mother panicked. "Son, your aunt died when you were just a baby." I froze. It was as if the blood flowing in my veins was no longer flowing, as if it had all been drained. Who was that woman who was just in our house, who hugged me and said she was my aunt? I started to get very uneasy again, and at that moment my parents arrived home. I told them everything that happened and everything I experienced without missing a detail. I told them everything. They checked the house. Nothing had been taken. My mother opened the photo album and crying asked, "Is this the woman who came to the house?" "Yes, Mom, it was this woman," I said. Then something else in the photo caught my attention. There was an old man standing with a cane. "Who is this, Mom?" I asked. "That's your grandfather's son. He died in the village. You never saw him," she said. But I had seen him. That old shepherd who came to the door that day and asked me for water was actually my grandfather, who had come to protect me. But what about that black man? Who or what was he? Is he still waiting deep in those woods for the next child to look behind them? Well, our story ends here. Until we meet in another adventure, stay with goodness.